Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my 2025-26 Premier League table predictions. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, can we try and hit 100 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Which three teams do you think will be relegated? Who do you think will win at the Premier League? And let me know who you think will get in the Champions League, the Europa League, the Europa Conference League, whatever it's called these days. It's almost impossible to tell which positions actually correlate to what sort of competition these days, but I know we are now in the middle of September. I've been extremely busy, in all honesty, to get these predictions out any earlier, but we're here today. Let's waste no further time and get straight into them. Starting out then in 20th place, I'm going to go with Leeds United. It's obviously nice for me as a Bradford City fan to confidently say that I think Leeds will come bottom of the table this season. Obviously last season won the Championship title. You know, they scored 95 goals last campaign, conceded 30, finished on a positive 65 goal difference, hit that 100-point mark, won the title on goal difference as well. But I just don't think Leeds have adequately strengthened their squad in this transfer window. There's not enough quality, especially in the attacking areas. I really think they're going to struggle to score goals this season. They've brought in Dominic Calvert-Lewin on a free transfer from Everton. Even when he is available, he's not the same player that he was 5 or 6 years ago, in all honesty, and I just don't think they've brought in enough going forward. They've made quite a lot of additions of players who are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". They're trying to go with height and physicality, but I think that can only get you so far. I think comfortably they've got the worst manager in the division as well in Daniel Farke, and unfortunately for them, thankfully for me, I think Leeds will finish bottom this season. In 19th position then, and finishing at second bottom, unfortunately I have another team who were promoted from the Championship last campaign, and that is Burnley FC. Now, while I think some of their recruitment does look pretty positive, again I think it's a similar position where they're just not going to score enough goals this season, and while I think defensively Burnley are going to be much better than Leeds United at this campaign, I think they've got a manager in Scott Parker there who will have them very well defensively organised, as we saw against Liverpool the other day. They'd have probably nicked a point in that game if it wasn't for the dramatic handball drama late on in that game. Obviously they've done a fair decent amount of recruitment from abroad, but I look at particularly the players that they've lost. For example, James Trafford, he's obviously gone to Man City to be their backup goalkeeper, and obviously they've brought in Martin Dubravka, which is clearly a downgrade. And I think, yes, they've spent a lot of money in this transfer window, as you always need to do when you come up from the Premier League. I think Ugachukwu, despite getting sent off against Liverpool, will prove to be a smart signing for them. And again, they might go back down to the Championship this season and probably go on and be promoted at next campaign, but I just don't think they've got enough quality in that squad, and I have them finishing second bottom. In 18th position then, and completing my relegation 3, I am going with Wolverhampton Wanderers. So I am backing one of the 3 promoted sides from last campaign in the Championship to survive. But Wolves, for me, they're actually currently bottom of the Premier League table at this moment in time. In terms of last campaign, they finished in 16th, and while they were only 2 points above the relegation zone, obviously they finished 17 points above the drop, but they conceded 69 goals last campaign. And a look at their recruitment, obviously it has largely been done from overseas. In terms of players that they've lost, obviously Matheus Cunha has gone over to Manchester United. They've lost Ryan Aït-Nouri as well to Manchester City, and I don't think anything else that they've lost is much of really too much significance, if I am being completely honest. But I just don't think that Wolves squad is in a particularly stronger place. If anything, I'd say it's in a weaker place now than where they were at the end of last campaign, and they only finished 2 points above, 2 places above the drop zone from last season. So unfortunately for them, I'm backing Wolves to go down this campaign. In 17th place, I am going with West Ham United. Obviously at this moment in time, they haven't had a particularly great start to the season. They're sat in the relegation zone with 3 defeats from their opening 4 matches. They've conceded 11 goals so far this campaign, the most in the entire division. Last season in the Premier League, they finished in 14th, and even at that point were only 18 points, I want to say, above the drop zone. So not a great season last year for West Ham whatsoever. I look at their business that they've done, and I wouldn't really say much that they've brought in is an amazing signing, if I'm being completely honest with you. Looking at the players who've obviously left West Ham, Mohamed Kudus has obviously gone over to Tottenham, but I don't think anything else is anything of much significance that they have lost. But Kudus is obviously a big blow. They've still got Jarrod Bowen at the football club, and they've got a couple of bits and pieces in their squad, but with Graham Potter at the helm, there's a lot of discontent around the club. The stadium's not really much of a football stadium, is it? And it's hard to generate an atmosphere in that type of venue. West Ham, I think they'll survive, but only just this campaign. In 16th 16th place, I am going with Sunderland AFC. Obviously, last campaign were promoted through the Championship playoffs, and I think they've obviously spent a lot of money in this transfer window in hope to try and survive, and we all want to see at least one of the newly promoted sides try and avoid relegation, because the Premier League over the last couple of years has become very boring. After about 20 games, you know the bottom three largely, you know who's probably going to go on and win the title, and we just need to see something a little bit different. Obviously, Sunderland have come up and they've recruited very well. Habib Diarra coming in from Strasbourg, I think, is a very good signing. They've brought in Siddiqui as well, who does look quite good. You got Mukiele, who's come in from PSG, very well experienced right back and centre half. They brought in Renan Lodi as well, a left back from Atletico Madrid on a free transfer, and loads of other signings in there as well. I think they've recruited very well. Granit Xhaka is obviously a big name as well, former Arsenal man. I think they've got a good manager as well in Reggie Lebris. So in my personal opinion this season, I am backing Sunderland to survive. In 15th position, I am going with Manchester United. Obviously, last campaign they finished in 15th, and I wouldn't say they're in a particularly stronger place now than where they were at the end of last campaign. I think Ruben Amorim is very stubborn in the way that he's going to play this 3-4-3 system, and it doesn't like he wants to change whatsoever. In terms of recruitment, they've got an entirely new front three coming through the door in Cunha, Mbeumo and Šeško, but I just don't see them thriving particularly under Ruben Amorim. Yes, there's decent players in there, and still some of them might end up on a decent goal contribution tally come the end of the campaign, but they needed so much more than that, in all honesty, and some of the players that they've still got on the books is absolutely insane. I think they've done quite well to get rid of the likes of Garnacho, Anthony, Højlund. These are sort of players that were just never going to play or were never really good enough for Manchester United, but there's so many more in there that it was going to take much more than one at transfer window. Obviously, Rashford's gone out on loan to Barcelona, Sancho's gone out on loan to Aston Villa, Onana, getting him out the door is very positive news as well, because goodness me, he was absolutely garbage. But I think there's a real lack of quality in that Manchester United squad, apart from the odd one or two. Bruno probably the big standout, but for me, I don't see any progress this year. In 14th position, I'm going to go with Brentford FC. Obviously, last campaign finished up in 10th and had a really positive season again under Thomas Frank, but he has now moved on. They've obviously lost Mbeumo to Manchester United, they've lost Wissa to Newcastle, they've lost Norgard to Arsenal as well, and there's a couple other players who have also moved on, but they've lost quite a lot, and I know that Brentford always do recruit very well. They've brought in Ouattara from Bournemouth, which I think surprised quite a lot of people. I think Kelleher coming in from Liverpool is a smart signing. They've brought in Jordan Henderson as well on a free transfer. Keith Andrews coming in was like the set piece coach or something like that last campaign, is certainly a left field appointment, but for me, Brentford, I think there is going to be a slight regression from last campaign, but I think they'll still be pretty happy with a 14th place finish. In 13th position, I'm going to go with Crystal Palace. I think they've got a very good manager in Oliver Glasner, and obviously last campaign they finished in 12th. They won the FA Cup, I want to say, and also won the Community Shield as well, which, you know, I think Glasner deserves a lot of credit for that, but obviously they have lost Eberechi Eze to Arsenal this summer, which was a big blow for them. They've managed to keep hold of Martin Guehi, but it probably means that he'll move on for a free transfer next summer. Obviously, Palace fans, let me know down below, would you have rather taken the money for him this summer, or would you rather have him for another year but lose him on a free transfer next campaign? Because I think he's a very, very good player, is Mark Guehi, in my opinion. In terms of recruitment then, for Crystal Palace, they obviously brought in Yeremy Pino, a very good wonder kid on Football Manager. Can't really say I know much about his real-life footballing ability, and there's more recruitment from Spain and France and the Netherlands as well that I can't really comment all too much. And I think there'll be a very slight regression from last campaign, but as long as they keep hold of Glasner, I think they'll end the season, and again, another pretty comfortable mid-table finish. In 12th position, I'm going to go with Nottingham Forest. Obviously, a big regression from last campaign when they finished in 7th. Since the start of the season, they've obviously sacked Nuno Espirito Santos. They've brought in Ange Postecoglou, and I think that is a very contrasting style of play. You've gone from low block, counter-attacking football under Nuno to very high line, high pressing walk ball, you could say, under Postecoglou, and I'm not entirely sure that that will work out. They've obviously again spent a lot of money in this transfer window that has gone by. They've obviously sold Anthony Elanga though to Newcastle, and a couple of other bits and pieces, the odd 5 or 10 million here or there as well. They've let go of a few of the fringe players as well on free transfers. There has been a fair big turnover of players. They've signed a lot of players from Botafogo over in Serie A. I wonder if that's that sort of multi-club ownership sort of thing. I can only assume that that's what it is. But I do think there will definitely be a regression from last campaign. I think in terms of what the squad suits, I think Nuno is a much better suit than Postecoglou. But obviously I know he'd obviously fallen out with Mariankis or whatever his name is. So I think personally there will be a regression in Nottingham Forest, but still a 12th place finish is very solid for them. In 11th position then, and completing my bottom half, I am going with Fulham FC. Obviously they didn't really do much transfer business in the window just gone by. They've bought in Kevin, a 22-year-old winger from Shakhtar, for just less than £40 million. And they didn't really lose much of real significance. Obviously Andreas Pereira has gone over to the Serie A, but that is about it. Obviously they've still got Marco Silva, who I think is a very good manager. Last campaign they finished in 11th, and I feel like the mid-table, really anywhere from 7th down to 14th, could certainly all be interchangeable. But I think it'll be another solid season for Fulham. I think they'll finish mid-table once again. In 10th position, I am going with AFC Bournemouth. I know on screen I put Bournemouth FC. I do apologise about that. But obviously last campaign, Bournemouth finished up in 9th and had a really, really good season. And I think again, they're going to be in for another pretty solid campaign. They've obviously lost Zabarani to PSG. They've lost Dean Huijsen to Real Madrid as well. They've lost Gyökeres as well to Liverpool. Ouattara has gone to Brentford and lost a couple of other bits and pieces as well. There are a few pretty significant departures, but they've recruited what they'll be hoping is some very good additions, and I feel like they've got a very good manager in Iraola, and for me personally, I think they're going to be pretty comfortable this season. Again, it'll be in and around mid-table. Yes, they've lost some of their better players, in particular in the defence. But I think Bournemouth, they're going to progress again, although it is a slight regression. I think they'll have another solid season. Anytime Bournemouth are finishing in the top half of the Premier League, they are massively punching above their weight, so the manager deserves a lot of credit for that. In 9th position, I'm going to go with Everton FC. It feels like finally the feel-good factor is back at Everton after so many years of dross and hurt. I feel like with David Moyes at the helm, he's a very, very good manager. They've recruited very well in this transfer window. Obviously, the big one is Jack Grealish coming in on loan from Manchester City. I feel like when Grealish is not at a top 6 club and he can thrive and be the main man, that is when you get the best out of him, because in that behind closed doors season, Jack Grealish for me was one of the best players in the world, and since he's gone to Man City, yes, he's won a few trophies, but he's not been the same player whatsoever, and I feel like he's really going to thrive this season under David Moyes. Dewsbury Hall coming in from Chelsea, I think he's a good signing. Tyler Diblin as well coming in from Southampton, lots of potential in him. In terms of departures, they've lost pretty much nothing of any real significance. You got a few long-term servants like Decore moving on from the football club, Calvert-Lewin as well, but I don't think these players are up to the standard if Everton are wanting to progress and push on from last campaign where they finish in 13th. The end of the season, very positively though. I think this season under David Moyes they're going to push for that top half, and I have them finishing in 9th place. In 8th position then, I am going with Aston Villa. Obviously last campaign they finished in 6th and only just missed out on Champions League football on goal difference, I believe. Obviously they lost out to Newcastle. There was drama on the final day away at Manchester United, but the thing is with Villa, there seems to be a bit of a negative feel around the club at the moment. Obviously there's been a lot of talk about PSR and the money that Aston Villa are spending on wages and all that sort of stuff, and looking at their transfer business, they've not really spent that much money. They've brought in Guessond, a 24-year-old forward from OGC Nice, for around £25 million. I don't really know much about. They've brought in Lindelof on a free transfer, which I think is a smart pickup. Elliott and Sancho are two very good loan additions as well. Obviously they've lost Jacob Ramsey to Newcastle. Leon Bailey's gone out on loan to AS Roma. They finally got rid of Felipe Coutinho, Dendoncker, Moreno, these sort of older players who've been on big money at the football club as well. But I just think there is a bit of a negative feel around Aston Villa, so there might be a slight regression from last campaign. They've got a very good manager though in Unai Emery. They are currently sat second bottom. They're yet to score a goal in the Premier League so far this campaign, but I think they'll eventually pick it up, hopefully progress higher up the table, and I have them finishing in 8th position. In 7th place, I am going with Brighton and Hove Albion. Obviously last campaign finished in 8th and picked up 13 points out of their last 5 matches, and this season they have had a pretty positive start to the campaign. I know it's been a little bit of a mixed bag, but obviously they beat Manchester City, and since then some of their other results haven't been particularly amazing, but obviously there has again been a big turnover of players at Brighton, as we always expect every single summer. They obviously lost João Pedro officially to Chelsea this summer. They've lost Estupinan to AC Milan, but I'm looking at some of their other departures and there's nothing of that much real significance. I wouldn't say Evan Ferguson's gone out on a loan once again to AS Roma, but they've got a very young manager in Fabian Hürzeler, who's only 32 years of age. But I think Brighton, they're going to be in and around challenging for those European sort of places, and right now I have them finishing in 7th. In 6th position then, I am going with Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously last campaign was a bit of a mixed season for Spurs, because in the league they were garbage. They finished 17th and only avoided relegation by 13 points. That is not a lot whatsoever, despite having a 46 better goal difference than Leicester, who did go down in 18th. But obviously they won the Europa League, so I don't know, I'm sure they'll be happy to have won the trophy, because there's no real difference between finishing 17th and 8th. In all honesty, you might get a couple of extra 100 grand, but what is that to Tottenham Hotspur? Obviously the big news over the summer was Daniel Levy resigning as chairman. They've brought in Thomas Frank, who I think is a very, very good manager, a big improvement on Ange Postecoglou for me. They spent a lot of money in this summer transfer window. Xavi Simon's coming in for big money. Kudus has also come in for big money as well. They've brought in João Paulinho on a loan transfer from Bayern Munich. Randall Kolo Muani, that was so hard to say for some reason, has obviously come in on loan as well from PSG. Obviously they lost Heung-min Son to LAFC for around £20 million, but apart from that, they've not really lost anything of real significance. They've sold Højbjerg, they've sold Brian Hill, who were just not good enough at this stage in their careers. But I think it's going to be a successful season this year for Tottenham. I think they'll get back into the Europa League. They'll obviously be aiming to win the Europa League as well. But as of right now, I'm feeling confident under Thomas Frank that they'll finish in that top 6. In 5th position, I am going with Newcastle United. Obviously, the big blow this summer was Alexander Isak, and not just the fact that he's left the club, the way that he left the club as well has obviously left a bit of a sour taste in a lot of the mouths of Newcastle United fans. You saw Lloyd Kelly actually moved to Juventus, who scored the 96th minute equaliser against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League last night. But apart from that, they've not really lost anything of any real significance. Longstaff has been sold to Leeds United. Callum Wilson's gone on a free transfer to West Ham, but I think they've recruited very well. Obviously, Nick Woltermaid has come in from Stuttgart. If I'm being completely honest, he's not a player that I had heard of before that he's gone to Newcastle, but obviously did score on debut. Alanga's come in from Nottingham Forest. I think that's a decent recruit. Wissa coming in as well from Brentford is a smart signing. Ramsey coming in from Aston Villa. Malik Thiaw coming in as well from AC Milan. So they've spent a lot of money in this transfer window. They've probably spent the Isak money before they got it in. They got, according to Transfermarkt, 145 million euros, which I think converts to around 125 million pounds, something like that. I think they've got a good manager in Eddie Howe, who's been there for about 4 years or something like that now. And I think Newcastle, they're going to be in for a successful season, remain in the Champions League. They obviously finished in 5th last campaign. They've already got a good core in that dressing room, and for me personally, I'm backing them to finish 5th. In 4th position, and maybe a little bit of a surprise, I'm going with Manchester City. Now, for me, they're always pretty much a given to go on and win the league title, but having them all the way down in 4th position this season, obviously last year they finished in 3rd and were 13 points off of league winners Liverpool, who obviously ended the season pretty poorly once they had already got it wrapped up. But City, for me, I'm just not feeling positive about them this campaign. Obviously, they've lost Kevin De Bruyne on a free transfer. They've lost Gundogan on a free transfer as well. Grealish has gone out on loan. Akanji's been loaned out. But apart from that, they've not really lost anything of real first-team significance. And obviously, they've spent a lot of money. They've brought in Reinders, who looks like a decent midfield option. Nori's come in from Wolves. Ryan Shirky is a little bit of an unknown at 21 years of age. They've brought in 2 very good goalkeeping options in Trafford and Donnarumma. And obviously, they've done a couple of bits and pieces here or there. They've obviously got Pep Guardiola, who's going into his 9th full season, I want to say, at the club, and they'll obviously be hoping to try and be successful again in the Champions League. But in the league, I can see them slipping up a few times this season, and I think the standard at the top of the table is going to be very strong, so I'm having Manchester City down in 4th this year. In 3rd position, I am going with Chelsea FC. They are always impossible to tell because they've got about a 700-man squad every transfer window. There's 10-15 players coming in and 10-15 players going out the door. You know, Chelsea are buying players for 10-15 million and then selling them for 20-25 million a couple of years later, and it's working for them so far. You know, they've got rid of a lot. They've sold Madueke to Arsenal. They've sold Nkunku to AC Milan. João Felix has been sold to Al Nassr as well. And there's just a load of other players who you might not have actually heard of for quite a while, who probably brought in on cheaper sort of transfers, and they've been sold on for bigger money when they've not really played all too much first team football. They have obviously spent a lot of money in at this transfer window. I'm not convinced on the signing of Garnacho, but I like the addition of Liam Delap, for example. They've brought in Estevao as well. They've done a lot of transfer business, and I feel like with the players who are already there from last season, I think Cole Palmer's going to be back to his best as well this campaign consistently for a full season. So I'm having Chelsea up in third this year. In second position, I am going with the team that always seems to finish second, and that is Arsenal FC. I feel like Mikel Arteta, he isn't the man to get them over the line. You know, going into certain fixtures and playing three defensive midfielders. Was it at home to Liverpool, I think, where they played three defensive midfielders? I just simply did not understand that. And again, they've spent big money in this transfer window. Zubimendi for 70 million, Eze for 70 million, Gyökeres for 65 million, Madueke for 55 million, and that's obviously not including Arrizabalaga, Nordgaard, Mosquera. They brought in Hincapié on a loan transfer as well. And again, a lot of players have left the club, but for not really a lot of money, in all honesty. You've had nearly 10 players leave the club, and I think they've probably not even got £10 million coming through the door, which is absolutely crazy to say, but it goes to sum up Arsenal's recruitment. They always spend a lot of money on players, and they just never really seem to recoup it. I would love to know what is Arsenal's club record sale, because I reckon it's probably not anything over 30, 40 million, something like that. I just don't think Arsenal have got the bottle. I don't think they've got the steel to get through it. They've got a lot of individually some very good players, but I don't look at the Arsenal squad and think it's better in many positions than the team that I've got in first. I think the team I've got in first have got a better manager, and for me, I think it's going to be another season of always the bridesmaid and never the bride for Arsenal. I've got them in second. And that obviously means then winning the Premier League title this campaign. In my opinion, I am going with Liverpool FC. Now, before the Isak deal got over the line, I had Liverpool as my heavy favourites, but signing one of the best players in the world, he definitely is going to come in and score a lot of goals for Liverpool, and I think for me, they're definitely going to win the title this campaign. Obviously, they've sold a decent amount of players to try and get some money in through the door. Obviously, Trent was going on a free this summer, but they sold him for 10 million quid a little bit earlier so he could play in the Club World Cup. They've sold Kelleher and Doak to fringe sort of players to other Premier League sides. Jarell Quansah has been sold to Leverkusen. Darwin Núñez has gone to Al Hilal for about 50 million. Luis Diaz has gone to Bayern Munich for about 65 million. So they've done quite well to get some good money in through the door. But obviously they've spent big money on Isak, on Wirtz, on Ekitike. You know, you're looking at them three. There's over £300 million that's been spent on them three players, and that's not including Kjærkjær and Frimpong and Leone as well. They've all spent very big money on, and obviously Freddie Woodman, the big signing who's come in on a free transfer from Preston. They've got a great manager in Arne Slot. They won the league title last campaign by 10 points, and that was only picking up 2 points in the last 4 games last season. I think they're going to be very strong once again this season. Salah's going to have another very strong campaign, and for me personally, Liverpool are going to win the Premier League title once again. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, can we try and hit 100 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. Which 3 clubs are you backing to be relegated? Who are your Premier League title winners, and who do you think will finish in all of the European sort of places as well? Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one.